Hello, this is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools, and I'm going to show you how we can use the new Data Viewer web part from Lightning Tools in order to be able to connect to an external data source for SharePoint modern sites. So the first thing we're going to do is click onto the add symbol inside this client-side web part section, and I'm going to scroll down until I see the Lightning Data Viewer. So we'll select that, and then we can basically click onto Configure to be able to get started configuring our connection to the external data source. So as we choose Configure, we are presented with 4 different tabs, and the first tab is asking us what we want to connect to. So we can connect to a SharePoint list that could be anywhere inside the tenant as long as we have permissions to it. We could also connect to a Business Connectivity Services external data source. So that could be something like a SQL database or an Oracle database. As long as we have the external content type generated from a tool such as BCS MetaMan, we'll be able to use that inside the data viewer. We can also use an OData service or connect to a SQL Azure database. So I'm going to go through and choose the OData service. We can then specify how we want to present our data, whether it's through JSON or a grid view, how many items do we want to return, and what do we want the data refresh interval to be like. So once we've set those options, we can go through and click onto the data source tab, which will obviously change depending on the type of data source we're connecting to. So I'm connecting to OData, so it's expecting an OData service URL, which I've pasted in there. We can then choose Load Entities, which will present to me all of the tables and the queries that are bringing data back from that particular service. So I'm going to connect to the Products table from this Northwind database. We'll then go through to the Columns tab and select which columns I want to be able to see. So I'm going to select all here, but I'll clear the checkbox for the supplier ID and the category ID, and I'm also going to go through and add a calculated column. The calculated column is a column that doesn't actually exist inside the data source, but it's a calculation that I want to see inside my grid view. So I'm going to create one here called sales tax, and I'll specify the column type to be a double, and we'll choose the columns that we want to base the calculation on, which is going to be the unit price field, and I'll insert that into my expression window. And I'm going to simply multiply that by 0.2, which will give me the sales tax, at least as it is in the United Kingdom here. And I can go through and select that sales tax column and then just simply drag it and drop it to where I would like it to appear inside my grid view. So once we've got the columns that we want to display, we can also go through and change the sorting. So we can sort by any column. We can also filter on any column as well. So filtering is just simply we go through and add our condition, and that will vary based on the type of data that is stored inside the cell. We can also go through and add advanced filters as well, and this allows me to have multiple conditions with an and or an or statement wrapping those conditions. So we can branch off, and we can also filter across multiple columns. We then come to the Display tab, and this is where we can go through and set the data formatting. So I can choose the sales tax as a currency, and likewise for the unit price. We could also specify on a Boolean column whether we want that to be displayed as yes or no, or true and false, and so on. And we can also go through and choose the column alignment. We can group by multiple columns, so we can set as many grouping levels as we like and specify the primary, secondary, tertiary, and so on. We can set color formatting to either the font or the background color of each cell or row. And then we've also got the formatting as well, which is conditional. So here I could go through and select the discontinued column, and in order to set conditions, we basically go through and add a condition. So here I'm going to say what will happen if the discontinued is equal to true. So if it's equal to true, then how do we want to display the value? Well, I could go through and display the value with a different foreground color or a different background color. Or we could go through and change the alignment. We could change the font properties, or I could also select an icon. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to choose this filled circle icon. There's lots of icons to choose from. You'll find all sorts of things in here. But I'm going to go through and change the color of that icon. So we'll change that to red. So I'll select a red color, and we could specify the size and the position of that icon as well, and we want that to be displayed. Okay, so if it's a discontinued product, then that will show in red, and then I can go through and add another conditional style. So we want the reverse of that. If the discontinued is equal to false, then that of course means it's continued, so we'll go through and set that as a green icon and hit save. So that allows me to add conditional formatting, and we've also got the ability to add data bars in here as well. So the units in stock, I will go through and select that, and on the data bars I'm just going to set a maximum value of 50. We can set the height, and we can also choose whether the value from the database is displayed or not. So we've said a couple of things there. I could also change some grid view settings. So do we want sticky headers? How do we want to align the columns? What's the height of the web part, and also the number of items per page that we want to show. And once I've configured all of that, I can basically click onto save, and there we have our configured data viewer showing data coming from the external data source. Now we can also go through and refine the view here inside the grid view. So maybe I don't really need to see this product ID, it's taking up a lot of space. So I can just simply go through to the column settings and decide that I want to hide that column. So I don't have to go into the configuration panel if I don't want to refine my view. We could also move the columns around slightly. So if we wanted the reorder level next to the units in stock, then I could hit the drop down on that and just basically go through and select move to the left, and that will change the column ordering there. And of course we can go through and add things like the conditional formatting and the grouping and so on, all through these properties. So it makes it very intuitive for a business user to manipulate data that may be coming from a line of business system within inside your organization. The Lightning Data Viewer is available now. You can download it. It's built into the SharePoint framework as a client-side web part, so it's an ideal fit for your new SharePoint modern team sites. Many thanks.